Good morning or good afternoon, depending on time you're watching this video. In any case, this is about the readings from Mass, from the book for Mass on the third Sunday of the season of Lent. The readings, the first one is from the book called Exodus, which is in the Old Testament. The story, of course, of the Hebrew people as they left Egypt and became free. But then they wandered throughout the desert for 40 years. The beginning of that journey is the story in our first reading about Moses. Moses climbed up the mountain, and there he met God. And God gave to him the 10 Commandments. So our first reading is the story of the 10 Commandments. Now, the commandments are precious for the Jewish people. Why? Well, probably 3 reasons. First of all, they included wisdom. Lots of wisdom handed on from generation to generation. All those experiences of people, helping them to know right from wrong. And the second important role of the rules was that they kept them safe. If you know right from wrong, you also know safe from dangerous, and you can choose to follow the safe way. The third was the commandments were an opportunity for Israel to say thank you to God. Let's look at that a little bit more. The first is the wisdom. The commandments have been passed on for many generations. You know how it is when you love to sit and listen to the stories of your family, your grandma, your grandpa, and those people who give to us stories about family life and what people have learned along the way in their life. And they pass this along from generation to generation, helping us so that we don't have to make big mistakes, because we know from those stories right from wrong. And right makes us happy. Wrong, sin, makes us sad. Right makes us united. Sin divides us. And so we always seek to follow the commandments. Why? Because we want to be happy. Because we want to do what is right. Because we want to enjoy life. And the commandments help us to do this. Second is there are lots of things we can do, mistakes or sins, that really hurt me or really hurt other people. And so we have the commandments to help us to be safe, which is a wonderful thing. I was talking with the kids this morning about if you were driving a car and there were no rules, people would be hurting each other, lots of accidents. Why? People would be going too fast, people would be cut in front, people would be doing stupid things. And the commandments help us to not do stupid things. The third is to give thanks to God. The people of Israel were aware of how much God had done for them. God loved them. God saved them from the slavery in Egypt. God was leading them to the promised land. God had given them life itself. And they wanted to say thank you. But how? How do you say thank you to God more than just words? How do you express your gratitude to God? Well, Israel knew that the law gave them the opportunity. By obeying the law, they showed respect and gratitude to God. Now, if we move on then to the gospel reading of this Sunday, We have the story of Jesus going into the temple, and there driving out the merchants, driving out the money changers. Why? What we see is Jesus is mad at them. Why? Well, first of all, it's important, I think, to know that Jesus was mad. What does that mean? It means that being mad is not a sin. People misunderstand this. Sometimes we get mad because something's wrong. Injustice. Someone hurting someone else. We should be angry about that. Look at our world, at wars and hunger and all these things. We should be mad about that. That's good. And so Jesus himself was angry. Why? Well, because they were not really worshiping God. Instead, they were trying to earn money from the temple. And that was wrong. And so Jesus told them to get out and allow people to come to the temple for true worship of God, true prayer. What's the lesson for us? Well, sometimes we pray, but we're not paying attention. Or we're praying, but it's always for me. God, I want, give to me. Not real prayer. Real prayer from our heart is an expression of love for God, is an expression of our desire to follow God's ways. And we're asking God to help us to do right. Help us to obey the law, the commandments. And so we worship in truth instead of substituting prayer for good works. That would be wrong. And then finally, in our gospel story, Jesus talks about it that destroyed the temple. I, Jesus, will rebuild it in 3 days. And the people were complaining. They said, we built this temple and it's taken us almost 50 years. And you're going to build it again in 3 days? What he explained was he was really talking about the temple, or the temple of his body. That he would rise from the dead in 3 days, as we know he did do, as he died on Friday and rose again on Sunday. And so, what Jesus declares to them is that he would overcome even death itself. In other words, the Jewish people went to the temple to pray. They went to the temple. Why? Because there they believed God dwelled. Just like we come to church because we believe in the real presence of God there in church. Well, what Jesus is teaching us is we don't go because God is there. We go because we want to meet Jesus himself. He is the law. He is the temple. He is the dwelling place of God with us. If that we summarize what that means, that religion, especially in Catholic or Christian religion, is about our relationship with Jesus. That we have this loving relationship with Jesus. That we obey Jesus' teachings and laws. That we seek with all of our heart to follow him. Today's readings give to us a wonderful opportunity to continue this journey that we call Lent. And the end of our journey will be the joys of Easter and a very joyful